Somebody has fabricated a monstrous big lie that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific murder. This is insane. It is false. It is outrageous.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected online rumors linking Israel to Charlie Kirk's murder, calling them a monstrous big lie. Kirk was fatally shot at Utah Valley University on September 10th, and the suspect, Tyler Robinson, has been charged with the killing. Since the incident, liberals and conservatives across the US have traded accusations over who bears responsibility. This has fueled unfounded conspiracy theories, with some speculating without evidence that Mossad was behind the killing. Charlie loved Israel. He loved the Jewish people. He told me so in a letter that he sent me just a few months ago, Netanyahu said in the statement. Somebody has fabricated a monstrous big lie that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific murder. This is insane. It is false. It is outrageous, he added.
Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, said that the bigger the lie, the faster it will spread. Well, somebody has fabricated a monstrous big lie that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific murder. This is insane. It is false. It is outrageous. Charlie Kirk was a giant, a once-in-a-century talent who defended freedom, defended America, defended our common Judeo-Christian civilization. Charlie loved Israel. He loved the Jewish people. He told me so in a letter that he sent me just a few months ago. One of my greatest joys as a Christian, he said, is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. He encouraged me to make the case directly to the American people about how vital Israel is to U.S. national security. He told me, the Holy Land is so important to my life, it pains me to see support for Israel slip away. Now, if Charlie disagreed with a policy of mine or a decision here and there, not only did I not mind, I welcomed it. This is the essence of Charlie. This is the essence of a free country. It's exactly what Charlie stood for. And I knew that his suggestions always came from the heart, from his love for Israel and from his love for the Jewish people. A few weeks before his death, I spoke to Charlie. I invited him to visit Israel again. And sadly, that won't happen. Now some are peddling these disgusting rumors, perhaps out of obsession, perhaps with Qatari funding. What I do know is this: Charlie Kirk was a great man, and a great man deserves honor, not lies. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. May your memory be a blessing.
Netanyahu earlier posted a tribute to the right-wing influencer after Kirk was killed, claiming he was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom. Netanyahu's statement follows claims from MAGA commentators that Kirk was privately much more critical of the Israeli government than he appeared to be in public.
The greatest trip I ever took was to Israel, and the second greatest trip I ever took was to Israel, and I've only been there twice. I'm a huge supporter of the Holy Land, of Judea and Samaria, and up against the terrorist organizations, Hezbollah, and the Palestinian Authority. I think that we do a very poor job of communicating the geopolitical significance of Israel. What President Trump just did and signed was incredible, a peace deal between the United Arab Emirates and Israel. I've been to Hebron, Golan Heights, Capernaum, and actually seeing the Holy Land firsthand brings the Bible in real life. It brings the Bible in Technicolor and really shows the significance of the Bible. It's not just a life improvement book, which some people wrongly teach the Bible as, but it's actually a historical document. These things happen. Jesus Christ did walk the earth. Jesus Christ did rise from the dead. And so the fight for Israel is one that we have to do a much better job of communicating to the young Christians. When I go to college campuses, and I've spoke at more college campuses than any Christian conservative in the last couple of years: Stanford, Berkeley, Brown, UCLA, University of Texas, University of Michigan, Michigan State University, you name it, I've probably spoken at major universities or states all across the country, from Montana State to Maine. And I am confronted many times by young Christians that believe that Israel is an oppressive apartheid state that basically should not exist in its current form. And so I am here to clearly communicate to you that we have to do a much better job of communicating, of conveying, I should say, the geopolitical significance of the state of Israel.
As the war in Gaza escalates, Israel is confronting a mounting decline in public support, while MAGA commentators grow increasingly vocal in their criticism of its tactics. Candace Owens, a conservative influencer and podcaster, claimed billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman pressured Charlie Kirk to visit Israel. She also said Benjamin Netanyahu contacted him. She further alleged threats were made to Kirk during a high-stakes intervention with Ackman in the Hamptons weeks ago, before Kirk's assassination. However, Ackman has dismissed these claims, calling them totally false. Meanwhile, former Fox News host Tucker Carlson said on his show earlier this week that Kirk did not like Bibi Netanyahu, claiming he was a destructive force and was appalled by what was happening in Gaza. Carlson also claimed that Kirk experienced a very intense attack from his donors, as well as allies of Netanyahu, for platforming him at a recent Turning Point USA conference. Earlier, in a speech at a Turning Point USA event, Tucker Carlson questioned whether Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed people involved in his sex trafficking scheme on behalf of the Mossad.
And I think that's really at the heart of why the Epstein thing is so distressing. I mean, the guy was some weird sex freak who was abusing girls. We knew that. But the fact that the US government, the one that I voted for, refused to take my question seriously and instead said, case closed, shut up, conspiracy theorist, was too much for me. And I don't think the rest of us should be satisfied with that. And by the way, let me just say really quickly, because I was so mad about it that I think I found out part of what's going on. I think we are going to find out more. And I think the truth, for whatever it's worth, in case you're interested, is that the DOJ didn't release lots of incriminating sex videos with Epstein and his billionaire pals because they don't have them. They don't have them because when the original search warrant was served, 2007, I think, possibly 2006, I think 7, it was basically designed to protect Epstein. The search warrant was written in such a way to make sure that the feds never got their hands on the actually incriminating evidence. It's another way of saying the cover-up has been going on since 2007, almost 20 years. And so the real question is not, was Jeffrey Epstein a weirdo who was abusing girls? Yes, we can answer that. The real question is, why was he doing this, on whose behalf, and where did the money come from? And those are the questions that need to be answered. And I think it's entirely fair to ask them. And it's not adequate to say anyone who asked them is somehow desecrating the memory of little girls who died in Texas. I'm not going to put up with that answer. I don't care who gives that answer. That is not acceptable. And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American. And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan? Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried. And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about saying that. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying that. I've spent my entire life pretty much in Washington, where I knew and loved a number of people, including one very close person who worked at CIA. That has never prohibited me from saying, I think the CIA has done some horrible things, murdered a bunch of people, participated in the murder of a sitting US president. It's got a whole trail of crimes. That doesn't make me a disloyal American. It doesn't make me anti-American in any sense. I was born here. My family's been here for hundreds of years. I love this country. That's why I live here. So criticizing the behavior of a government agency does not make you a hater. It makes you a free person. It makes you a citizen. You're allowed to do that because you're not a slave. You're a citizen. And you have a right to expect that your government will not act against your interests, and you have a right to demand that foreign governments not be allowed to act against your interests. What the hell is this? You have the former Israeli Prime Minister living in your house. You have had all this contact with the foreign government. Were you working on behalf of Mossad? Were you running a blackmail operation on behalf of a foreign government? By the way, Every single person in Washington, D.C. thinks that. I've never met anyone who doesn't think that. I don't know any of them that hate Israel, but no one feels they can say that. Why? And I think the longer that we play along with it, the more subterranean and creepy and hateful the conversation actually becomes. So I think it's better just to say it right out loud. Did this happen? And of course, that question has been asked to the government of Israel, and their answer is, we're not going to tell you. And I think our answer should be, no. As long as we're sending you money, if you were committing crimes on our soil, we have an absolute right to know, did you do this or not?